Betwabu, beautiful people. Betwabu. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Betwabu, yeah. Betwabu. Betwabu. All right, let me see. They was up before I was, trying to wake me up, telling me to come put in the code for the computer. They've been up waiting for me for the last, they've been waiting for me for the last hour. I waited to the very last minute to put it in too. All right, y'all. We are in the Missing Books of Esther. And we are in chapter 7, 8, and 9 today. Okay, they're about the same, almost about the same length. Chapter 7 is 28 verses. Chapter 8 is 19 verses. And chapter 9 is 28 verses. All right, y'all. Okay, so today, this gives a little more detail of what we already know that happened. All right, so I won't give it away. I just started reading. All right, chapter 7. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lands sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she rent her raiment, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Hathach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hathach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him all that had happened unto him, and at the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also he gave him a copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. So we can already see in these first 9 verses there is a little bit more detail that's added to the original book of Esther, what happened. Esther just kind of sums it up a little bit, but this expands what actually happened and was telling you, because we only know that Esther and her maidens, they fasted when Mordecai told her what happened, but what it didn't tell you is that the people were already weeping and crying when they got the decree, and they were fasting and crying out to Yah, and Mordecai was in sackcloth and ashes before the king's gate, wailing every day. All right, verse 10. Again, Esther spoke unto Hathach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his, to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told Mordecai Esther's words. The Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with yourself that you shall escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if you altogether hold your peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house shall be destroyed. Now who knows whether you will come into the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them to return Mordecai this answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast alike, and so I will go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Then Mordecai thought upon all the works of Yahuwah and made his prayer unto him, saying, and see, we didn't hear a prayer either in the first, in the original book of Esther. So here's the prayer that Mordecai prayed. I read 18 again. Then Mordecai thought upon all the works of Yahuwah and made his prayer unto him, saying, O Yahuwah, Yahuwah, the King El Shaddai, for the whole world is in your power. And if you have appointed to save Israel, there is no man that can gainsay you. For you have made heaven and earth and all the wondrous things under heaven. You are Yahuwah of all things, and there is no man that can resist you, which are Yahuwah. You know all things, and you know, Adonai, that it was neither in contempt nor pride, nor for any desire of glory that I did not bow down to proud Haman. For I could have been content with good will for the salvation of Israel, to kiss the soles of his feet. But I did this, that I might not prefer the glory of man above the glory of Elohim. Neither will I worship any but you, O Elohim. Neither will I do it in pride. And now, O Yahuwah Elohim and King, spare your people, for their eyes are upon us to bring us to naught. Yea, they desire to destroy the inheritance that has been yours from the beginning. Despise not the portion which you have delivered out of Egypt for your own self. Hear my prayer and be merciful unto your inheritance. Turn our sorrow into joy, that we may live, O Yahuwah, and praise your name, and destroy not the mouths of them that praise you, O Yahuwah. All Israel in like manner cried most earnestly unto Yahuwah, because their death was before their eyes. All right, y'all, chapter 8. Queen Esther also, being in fear of death, resorted unto Yahuwah, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning, and instead of precious ointment she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly, and all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair. And she prayed unto Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, saying, O my Adonai, you only are our king. Help me, a desolate woman, which have no helper but you. For my danger is in my hand. From my youth up, I have heard in my tribe of my family that you, O Yahuwah, took Israel from among all people, and our fathers from all their predecessors for a perpetual inheritance, and you have performed whatsoever you have promised them. And now we have sinned before you, therefore you have given us into the hands of our enemies, because we worship their Elohim. O Yahuwah, you are righteous. Let me just point out something here. If you have not noticed, but if you know that, you'll get it. Okay, so remember all the way back in the beginning when Yahuwah first delivered Israel out of Egypt, and he was given a command. He said, and teach them to your children. Talk about them during dinner, when you're walking down the street, when you lay upon your bed. Tell them, and if they ask this, tell them this is why, and that I loved you and I brought you out of Egypt. I did all these. They asked why the miracles. I brought you out with a strong and mighty hand to show the nations that I am your God, your Elohim, your mighty one. So in her prayer, you can actually hear that. And also in the regular book of Esther, we don't hear a prayer from Esther either. But in here, she points out, what is this? What was it? Verse 5, she said, and I just start from 5 again. I keep going, y'all. From my youth up, I have heard the tribe of my family that you, so her family kept it, and they were telling the children as they were growing up about these things. They were passing it down orally what had happened. Okay. From my youth up, I have heard in the tribe of my family that you, O Yahuwah, took Israel from among all people, and our fathers from all their predecessors for a perpetual inheritance, and you have performed whatsoever you have promised them. And now we have sinned before you, therefore you have given us into the hands of our enemies, which Yahuwah also said that if you will turn away from him and from his commands, this is what will happen. And now we have sinned before you, therefore you have given us into the hands of our enemies, because we worship their Elohim. O Yahuwah, you are righteous. Nevertheless, it satisfies them not that we are in bitter captivity, that they have stricken hands with their idols, that they will abolish the thing that you with your mouth have ordained, and destroy your inheritance, and stop the mouth of them that praise you, and quench the glory of your house and of your altar, and open the mouths of the heathen to set forth praises of the idols, and to magnify a fleshly king forever. O Yahuwah, give not your scepter unto them that be nothing, and let them not laugh at our fall, but turn their device upon themselves, and make him an example that has begun this against us. Remember, O Yahuwah, make yourself known in time of our affliction, and give me boldness, O King of the nations, and Yahuwah of all power. Give me eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion. Turn his heart to hate him that fights against us, that there may be an end of him and of all that are like-minded to him. But deliver us with your hand, and help me that am desolate, which have no other help but you. You know all things, O Yahuwah. You know that I hate the glory of the unrighteous, and arbor the bed of the uncircumcised, and of all the heathen. You know my necessity, for I arbor the sign of my high estate, which is upon my head in the days wherein I show myself, and that I arbor it as a mistress rag, and I wear it not when I am private by myself. And your handmaid has not eaten at Haman's table, and that I have not greatly esteemed the king's feast, nor drunk the wine of the drink offerings. Neither had your handmaid any joy since the day that I was brought hither to this present, but in you, O Yahuwah Elohim of Abraham. O Elohim above all, hear the voice of the forlorn, and deliver us out of the hand of the mischievous, and deliver me out of my fear. All right, y'all, last chapter for today, the missing book of Esther, chapter 9. And upon the third day, when she had ended her prayer, she laid away her mourning garments, her mourning, like I'm mourning this thing that's about to happen to us. And upon the third day, when she had ended her prayers, she laid away her mourning garments, and put on her glorious apparel, and being gloriously adorned, after she had called upon Elohim, who is the beholder and savior of all things, she took 2 maids with her, and upon one she leaned, as carrying herself daintily, and the other followed, bearing upon her train. And she was ruddy through her perfection of beauty, and her countenance was cheerful and very amiable, but her heart was in anguish for fear. Then, having passed through all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne, and clothed with all his robes of majesty, all glittering with gold and precious stones, and he was very dreadful. Then, lifting up his countenance that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her, and the queen fell down and was pale and fainted, and bowed her head. And the queen fell down and was pale and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the maid that went before her. Then Elohim changed the spirit of the king into mildness, who was in fear, leaped from his throne, and took her in his arms till she came to herself again, and comforted her with loving words, and said unto her, Esther, what is the matter? I am your brother, be of good cheer. You shall not die, though our commandment be general, come near me. Now, we didn't read that either. We didn't read that his countenance was fierce like a lion, and he looked at her fiercely, and she fainted, and then Yahuwah changed, and that was a part of her prayer, changed the king's heart, and he changed his heart immediately, and he jumped up like, oh my God, my queen, what's wrong? Esther, what is the matter? I am your brother, be of good cheer. You shall not die, though our commandment be general, come near. And so he held up at his golden scepter, and laid it upon her neck, and embraced her, and said, speak unto me. Then she said unto him, I saw you, my Lord, as an angel of Elohim, and my heart was troubled for fear of your majesty. How wonderful you are, Lord, and your countenance is full of grace. And as she was speaking, she fell down for faintness. Then the king was troubled, and all his servants comforted her. Then said the king unto her, what will you, Queen Esther, and what is your request? It shall be given you up to half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther had said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, what is your petition? And it shall be granted you. What is your request? Even to half of the kingdom shall it be performed. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor. Hey, calm down, y'all. Calm down. Did we read this comment somewhere else, or did I listen to this reading and don't remember? You could have listened to it or read it before and don't remember. But this is our first time, the faint part. Yeah, I figured you was talking about the fainting part. That's why I said you may have listened to it or read it before and don't remember. Okay. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant at my petition and to perform at my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king has said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends, and Zeresh, his woman. It says woman, but it's his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above all the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself, and tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was the missing books of Esther, or missing chapters. I keep saying books, chapters, books. It's the missing writings from the book of Esther. And we read chapter 7, 8, and 9. Today is 154. It is Sunday, May 24th, 2020, y'all. Reading is very, very fast today. And we're just going to get right to it. Yeah, Tiffany, you probably, you have a suffer, so you probably did read it before. You just don't remember you read it. That's probably why it sounds familiar. All right, y'all. So we will get on with this blessing today. It is found in, you all know, Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And remember, the first 21 verses of that chapter is the instructions for those who would take the Nazirite vow. Remember, a Nazirite can be a man or a woman, meaning a man or a woman can take the vow of a Nazirite. So go and read it if you don't quite understand it in the KJV version. Read it in the NIV, read it in the NLT, read it in the Amplified. And once you read it in that many, you would get it. I mean, it's really simple. All right, verse 22. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise shall ye bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, y'all. Let me point out something if y'all haven't noticed. I think I may have pointed it out before, but we all know that Aaron and his sons are all Levites. But anybody ever given any thought to Moses was also a Levite? Although he was the deliverer and he was a prophet, but he was the brother, the blood-born brother of Aaron. So all of them are Levites. I just wanted to, I don't know if anybody ever paid attention to it, if anybody even cared, but Moses too was of the priests and the Levites. Prophet, priest, king, deliverer, he kind of fit all of those. All right, so I ain't really got too much more. I just wanted to point it out if y'all had never thought about it. All right, y'all. See you bright and early in the morning.